The night was quiet, but the wind was not. It howled through the trees like a ghost, shaking the small human tent standing alone in the icy woods. Snow fell hard from the dark sky, and everything around was white cold and silent, except for the crackling sound of Eric's heater inside the tent. Eric was a human scout, sent to this frozen alien planet to observe from a distance. He had been here for 3 weeks now. Alone, no animals, no enemies, no movement. Just snow and silence. He didn't expect visitors, not on this dead world. Then it happened, a soft knock. Barely there, just one tap on the side of the tent. Eric sat up fast. His heart jumped. He reached for his small rifle, aimed at the flap of the tent, and whispered, "Who's there?" No answer, just the wind again, laughing outside like it had played a trick. Then another knock, this time a little louder. Eric stood, stepped carefully, and opened the flap just a little. A blast of icy wind rushed in, stinging his face, and there she was, a young alien woman, standing barefoot in the snow. Her skin was a pale lavender blue, her long silver hair covered in snowflakes, and her eyes glowed faintly purple. She wore a torn, thin suit, not meant for cold. Her arms hugged her chest, and her lips trembled. "Please," she said in a soft, broken voice. "Can I warm up?" Eric stared at her, confused. Was this a trap? A spy? Or just someone in trouble? "Who are you?" he asked. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said, shaking. "I was lost." Against his training and instincts, something in her voice touched him. She looked more frozen than dangerous. Her fingers were blue, and her legs trembled. "Come in," Eric said, stepping back. She crawled inside slowly, not standing. Tall like other aliens he'd seen in battle footage, she moved like a wounded animal, careful and scared. Eric closed the flap and turned up the heater. The warm air began to fill the tent, melting bits of snow from her hair. "Sit down," he said, handing her a blanket. She grabbed it with weak hands and wrapped herself tight. "Thank you," she whispered. Eric kept his rifle close, but his eyes watched her closely. "What's your name?" She looked at the floor. "I don't have one." He didn't believe that. Everyone has a name, but he didn't push, not yet. Her body was still cold, even near the heater. But then Eric noticed something strange on her back. Under the blanket, there was a faint orange light glowing through the cloth. Very faint, but it pulsed like a heartbeat. "What's that?" he asked. She froze, pulled the blanket tighter. "Nothing, just old damage. Are you injured?" "No," she said quickly, "just cold." Eric didn't trust her, but she didn't seem strong enough to be a soldier. If she was here to kill him, she would have done it already. Still, he kept his guard up. They sat in silence for a while, the heater buzzing between them. Her eyes closed slowly, and her shoulders relaxed. Maybe it was the warmth, or maybe the silence made her feel safe. Eric noticed her breathing slow down, like she was falling asleep. "You can't stay long," he said, trying to sound firm. She opened one eye, nodded. "I know." Eric didn't ask more questions, not tonight. But in his mind, one question kept repeating. What was she doing out here, alone, in the snow, on a world no one cared about? As she drifted to sleep, Eric noticed her lips moving slightly. She was whispering in a soft language, not one he understood. He leaned closer to hear, but stopped when he saw her hand reach towards something, his rifle. She touched it gently, then pulled her hand back and tucked it under the blanket. Like she changed her mind, Eric sat back and stared at the tent flap. Outside, the snow kept falling, burying everything in white. But now there was color inside her glowing eyes, the soft orange pulse on her back, the mystery of her words. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew this wasn't just a simple visitor looking for heat. This was the beginning of something strange, something that would change everything. The next morning, Eric woke up early. The wind had stopped, but snow still covered the tent like a thick blanket. The alien girl was still asleep, her face peaceful. She looked younger in the light, almost fragile. Her body was curled up near the heater, holding the blanket tightly. He quietly got up, made some warm water, and added a bit of powder from his rations. It was not tasty, but it helped in the cold. The smell woke her up, and she slowly sat up. Her eyes met his, soft and alert. "You're still here," Eric said. She nodded. "You didn't throw me out." "You were half frozen," he replied. "I don't throw people out in storms." She looked down at her hands. "Still, thank you." He handed her a cup. "Drink, it'll help." She took it carefully, sniffed it, and then drank slowly. Her eyes closed for a second, as if the warmth went straight to her heart. "What's your name?" Eric asked again. She looked at him, quiet, then finally said, "Lyra." He nodded. "I'm Eric." They sat quietly again, sipping the warm drink. Eric watched her carefully, trying to figure her out. Her skin had strange marks, thin lines running across her arms and neck. They looked like scars or maybe something else. "Where are you from, Lyra?" he asked. She shook her head. "Nowhere. That's not a place." He replied. She smiled weakly. "It is for me." Eric frowned. "Were you part of the war?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at the heater and said softly, "I wasn't meant to be found." Eric felt a chill, not from the cold, but from her words. He decided not to push more, not yet. Later, while she cleaned her hands, Eric stepped outside to check the comms tower. It was still working, but the signal was weak. He tried to send a short report, but the storm had damaged the uplink. It would take time to fix. That meant no contact with command for now. When he returned, Lyra was standing near his datapad. Not touching, just looking. When she noticed him, she stepped back fast. "I wasn't going to do anything," she said quickly. Eric raised an eyebrow. "You seem very curious for someone who's just lost." She didn't reply. He noticed the heater had cooled down a little, and Lyra was still sitting far from it. She kept herself close to the wall of the tent, as if afraid of getting too warm. That made Eric think again about the glow he saw on her back last night. "You don't like heat, do you?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "Not too much. It makes something inside me act up." "Something inside you?" he repeated, walking closer. "Like what?" She looked down. "Machines," Eric blinked. "You're part machine?" Lyra slowly pulled back a bit of the blanket, just enough to show her lower back. There, under the skin, were small metallic parts. Glowing orange, they moved slightly, pulsing like nerves, but not natural. Eric had never seen tech like this. "You're a cyborg," he whispered. "No," she said firmly. "I'm different." "What are you then?" he asked. "I was made," she said, her voice flat. "In a lab, not born." Eric stepped back, shocked. This wasn't just a visitor or a lost traveler. She was something else, something secret. "Why are you here?" he asked again. "I ran away," she said. "I escaped." "From who?" "From everyone," she whispered. Suddenly, Eric's comms device beeped a low signal flash. A nearby scanner had picked up movement. Something or someone was not far. From their position, he looked at Lyra, and her face showed fear. "You called someone here?" he asked sharply. "No," she said quickly. "I swear, I didn't." "Then why are they coming?" "Because I was made to be tracked," she replied. "Even if I don't send signals, they can still find me." Eric grabbed his gear and looked at the map. A small dot was blinking 1 kilometer away, moving slowly toward them. "You brought danger to my door," he said quietly. "I didn't want to," she said, her voice shaking. "I just wanted warmth." Eric stared at her, heart pounding. He had a choice to make: kick her out or protect her. Lyra looked down, silent. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't cry. "If you want me to leave," she whispered, "I'll go." Eric didn't answer. Right away, he looked at his rifle, then at her. "No," he finally said. "If they're coming, we'll deal with them together." Lyra looked up, surprised. "You'd fight for me?" He nodded slowly. "You knocked on my tent. I let you in. That means I'm responsible now." Outside, the snow had started again. But this time, Eric wasn't just facing the cold. Something more dangerous was coming. And it all started with a simple knock. The blinking light on Eric's tracker grew stronger. Something was moving toward them, slow but steady. Eric checked his rifle again and then looked at Lyra. She sat quietly, her hands holding the blanket tight, her eyes full of worry. "They'll find me," she whispered. "They always do." Eric knelt beside her. "How many will come?" "I don't know," she replied. "Maybe one scout, maybe more later," he thought fast. They didn't have much time outside. The snow had softened, but not stopped. It could hide movement, but it also slowed it down. That gave them a little advantage. "I need to know what we're dealing with," Eric said. "What kind of people are after you?" "They're not people," she said, looking up at him. "They're machines, I mean. Part machine, like me, but no feelings, no mind of their own. They follow orders without thinking." "Who gave those orders?" "I don't know. Maybe someone from your side, maybe not." Eric was shocked. His own people building things like her. And then hunting them down? He grabbed a small pack and started putting in supplies, food, ammo, and a second heater. "We need to move," he said. "They're too close." Lyra stood slowly, her legs still weak. "I can walk," she said. Softly, outside, the cold bit hard. But Eric kept them moving through a narrow path behind the hill. He knew the terrain, and there was a small cave not far. A good place to hide if needed. Lyra walked beside him, quiet. But her breathing was rough. Her body was not meant for cold or long walks. After 20 minutes, they reached the cave. It was hidden under thick trees and half covered in ice. Eric checked inside. It was safe, dark and dry, just enough space. For 2 people, he helped her inside and turned on the heater. The warmth filled the small space slowly, and for a moment, they were safe again. Lyra sat down and leaned against the wall. "I didn't mean to bring this trouble," she said, voice low. "I believe you," Eric said, "but I still need to understand who you really are." She closed her eyes for a moment, then spoke. "I was part of a project. They called us shadow units. Designed to look like civilians, act like spies, move across borders, blend in." Eric listened carefully. "And you escaped?" "Yes," she said. "They said we were tools, not people, but I started feeling things, dreams, fear, kindness. That made me a failure in their eyes." He sat down beside her. "That doesn't make you a failure, Lyra. That makes you human." Her eyes widened slightly. "You really think that?" He nodded. "More than some humans I've met." Suddenly, a soft beep came from Eric's device. The enemy signal had stopped moving. It was now holding position, less than 500 meters away. "Watching. They're near," he said. "Probably." Scanning, Lyra pulled her knees close. "They can't see into this cave. The rock blocks some signals." Eric gave a small smile. "That's why I brought us here." He checked his rifle and loaded a fresh cell. "If they come, I'll stop them." Lyra looked up. "You don't have to fight for me. You can still leave, save yourself. I don't run from people who need help," he said. "Not even part machine ones." Lyra smiled weakly. "You're strange." "Yeah," Eric replied. "That's what makes us hard to beat." Hours passed slowly. The storm outside faded, leaving behind silence and fog. Eric stayed awake, watching the entrance, listening to every sound. Lyra finally fell asleep. Her breathing steady, then movement. A soft sound, like metal touching snow, came from outside the cave. Eric raised his rifle and held his breath. A figure moved in the mist, tall, armored, with glowing red eyes. It didn't walk like a human. It scanned the ground, its head moving slowly left and right. Eric waited, still as a statue. The thing came closer to the cave, but then stopped. It stood there for minutes, then turned and walked away, disappearing into the fog again. Eric exhaled slowly. Lyra opened her eyes. "Did they find us?" "No," he whispered, "but they will come back, maybe with more." Lyra sat up. "I have an idea, but it's risky." "What is it?" "I can send a false signal, make it look like I'm far away. It might buy us time." "Can you do that with my gear?" he asked. "Yes, but it might damage your comms." "Do it," he said without hesitation. Lyra crawled to the bag, opened the datapad, and started working fast. Her fingers moved like lightning, lines of code flashing. On the screen, within minutes, a signal burst out far and strong, away from their position. "It's done," she said. "Now we wait." Eric looked at her with new respect. "You're not just part machine, Lyra. You're a fighter." She gave a tired smile. "So are you." They sat together in the quiet cave, surrounded by rock, snow, and danger. But for now they had each other. The fake signal worked better than Eric expected for the next few hours. The tracker showed the enemy unit moving away, chasing the signal into the wrong direction. Lyra's trick had bought them some time, but not forever. Inside the small cave, Eric watched her rest. Her head was resting on her arm, her body still, curled up from the cold. Even with the heater, she didn't look strong. Her skin was pale, and the glow from her back had become dimmer. He moved closer and gently touched her shoulder. "Lyra," he said softly, "are you okay?" She opened her eyes slowly. "Just tired. Just systems," Eric said. "They're not shutting down, right?" She gave a weak smile. "They always shut down slowly. I was not made to last this long." "Let me help," he said. "Tell me what you need." "I need warmth," she said. "But not too much. My core reacts badly to heat. I need balance. A soft warm, not fire." Eric understood. He adjusted the heater, set it lower, then wrapped another layer around her shoulders. He handed her some water and soft rations. She ate slowly, carefully, like someone not used to being cared for. "Did anyone ever treat you kindly?" he asked. She looked away. "No, they only gave orders, tests, pain." "Then you must be strong," Eric said, "because you escaped and you're still alive." She smiled again, but her eyes were wet. "Maybe I just got lucky." Outside, the wind picked up again. Small sounds echoed through the snow. Eric kept watch at the mouth of the cave. Holding his rifle close, he knew the enemy would return. And this time they might come in numbers. Suddenly, Lyra moved to his side. "Let me help," she said. "I can connect to their system from here, maybe listen in, see what they're planning." "You can do that from inside the cave?" Eric asked. "Yes, but I need your power cell." He handed her the backup cell from his pack. "Be careful." Lyra placed her hand over the metal and closed her eyes. Her spine glowed again, brighter this time, and small lights moved through her skin like tiny stars. Eric watched, amazed and nervous. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. After a few minutes, her eyes opened wide. "They're coming back, 2 more units." "How long?" "Less than 1 hour," she said. "But they think I'm weak. They think I'll be easy to capture." "They're wrong," Eric said. Loading his rifle. "We can't fight them directly," Lyra warned. "But we can trap them. Delay them again." He nodded. "We'll make this cave our last stand." Lyra stood with effort. "I'll set up a magnetic burst at the entrance. It will shut down their scanners for a few seconds. Enough for a surprise." Together, they worked fast, setting traps using spare metal, wires and heat coils. Eric placed smoke flares in the snow outside. Lyra set small charges along the rocks. Her body shook from the effort, but she didn't. "Stop, you're bleeding," Eric said, noticing a line of silver fluid on her arm. "It's normal," she replied. "My systems leak under stress, but I'll hold." As the time neared, Eric and Lyra took cover inside the cave. The lights were turned off, the heater silenced. The only sound was the faint heartbeat of the land, soft winds and distant thuds in the snow. Then they saw it. 2 shadows, tall and smooth, walking without sound, their red eyes scanning the area. The machine stopped in front of the cave, scanning the entrance. Eric held his breath. One machine stepped inside. That's when Lyra triggered the magnetic burst. The machine's sensors blinked, confused. It paused, just enough time for Eric to fire. A shot straight to the chest. The machine dropped, sparks flying. The second unit rushed in, faster than Eric expected. It leapt over the fallen one, but before it could strike, Lyra activated the flare traps. Bright lights and smoke filled the cave. The machine twisted in the confusion, giving Eric a chance to shoot again. 2 direct hits. It fell but slowly, like a dying beast, still twitching. Lyra grabbed a metal rod and stabbed it into the machine's chest. Releasing an electric shock from her hand, the machine stopped moving. Eric stared at her shocked. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" "I watched," she said, breathing hard, "and I remembered." They stood in silence for a while, smoke fading, both tired but alive. "We need to leave this cave," Eric said. "Next time, there will be more." Lyra nodded, her hand still glowing faintly. "I'll walk. Just not too far." Eric looked at her with worry. "You're breaking apart." "Maybe," she whispered, "but I still have purpose." As they stepped out into the cold again, Eric thought to himself she wasn't just an escaped experiment. She wasn't just some half-machine girl. She was becoming something more, and he was no longer alone. They left the cave before the sun rose. The snow had stopped, but the cold air bit hard. Eric carried the pack while Lyra walked beside him. Slow but steady. Her skin was even paler now, and the glow on her back had faded more every few steps. She would stop and rest. Eric didn't rush her. He stayed close, watching her movements, making sure she didn't fall. She was strong, but she was also getting weaker. "Where are we going?" she asked softly. "There's an old supply station not far from here," Eric said. "It's hidden underground, might still have power. It could help you." She nodded. "Okay." They moved through the forest of frozen trees, their footsteps light in the soft snow. Everything around them was quiet, like the world was holding its breath. No birds, no wind, just the sound of boots crunching the ice. After an hour, they reached a broken rock wall covered in snow. Eric brushed the surface and found the hatch beneath. He pressed a small panel, and the door opened with a deep mechanical sound. Warm air escaped from inside, stale, but better than the cold. They stepped inside and closed the hatch. The lights flickered on, showing a narrow tunnel leading down into darkness. Eric led the way with his flashlight, and Lyra followed slowly, her legs shaking slightly. At the bottom, they found the old supply room. Still clean, still working. Lights came on as they entered, and soft heat filled the space. Eric smiled. "We're lucky. Power cells are still running." Lyra sat down on a bench, breathing deeply. "It feels safe here." Eric checked the storage units, pulled out some clean water, rations, and a few medical tools. He returned to her and gently touched her arm. "Let me see your back." She hesitated, but then turned around and pulled up her shirt. Slowly, her back was covered in metal lines, some cracked, some blinking with low red light. Her skin was torn in a few places, leaking silver-blue fluid. "This doesn't look good," Eric said quietly. "I know," she replied. "It's getting worse." He cleaned the damaged areas carefully, using warm cloth and repair gel he found in the storage box. Lyra didn't flinch, but her fingers gripped the bench tightly. The pain was there, but she didn't show it. "You're tough," Eric said. She gave a weak smile. "I had to be." When he was done, she lay down and closed her eyes for a while. Eric sat nearby, thinking. This girl, this machine-human hybrid, had been hunted, abandoned, and nearly broken. Yet she was still trying to survive. "Lyra," he said suddenly, "why did you knock on my tent that night?" She opened her eyes. "Because I saw your light, I thought maybe the warmth would kill me quickly, instead of freezing." Eric was silent. "But then," she continued, "you opened the flap, you let me in. I didn't expect that." "Why not?" "Because humans fear my kind," she said. "You were supposed to shoot me." "I almost did," he admitted. "But I saw your eyes, they weren't cold." She looked down. "Maybe they used to be." Suddenly the station's warning light blinked red. Eric rushed to the panel someone had activated. A scanner nearby. It wasn't close yet, but it was moving toward the station. "They're tracking again," he said. "They'll find us in less than an hour." Lyra stood up, weak but ready. "Then we can't stay." "No," Eric said, "but we can leave them a surprise." Together, they worked fast. Eric wired one of the old power cells to overload. Lyra used the station's signal booster to send out false data, confusing the trackers. When the machines entered, they would receive a signal too strong, burning out their sensors. As they finished setting the trap, Lyra's hands started shaking badly. Her body leaned against the wall for support. "You need to rest," Eric said. "No time," she whispered. "Let's go." They exited through a small back tunnel that led into the woods again. Eric carried her pack now and held her arm when she stumbled. The trap behind them was armed, and the enemy would soon fall for it. As they walked, Lyra spoke quietly. "You know, in the lab they said I'd never escape. They said I wasn't made to survive." "They were wrong," Eric said. "You're alive and you're free now." "But for how long?" she asked. "For as long as we keep fighting," he replied. They didn't speak for a while after that. Just walked together under the pale sky, snow crunching beneath their feet, and as they moved forward, Eric felt something shift inside him. Not fear, not duty, but something deeper. This girl wasn't just a machine, wasn't just a fugitive. She was someone worth saving, even if it meant risking everything. The forest grew darker as the sky turned gray. Eric and Lyra moved slowly through the snow-covered woods. Behind them, far away, a low boom echoed. The trap at the supply station had exploded. The ground shook slightly, and a column of smoke rose into the sky. "They found it," Eric said. Lyra nodded, her voice weak. "It'll slow them down." But both of them knew only for a short time. The machines would keep searching. They wouldn't stop. Not until they captured her or destroyed her. Lyra's legs gave out, and she dropped to her knees. Eric rushed to catch her before she fell completely. Her body felt colder now, and the glow in her spine was almost gone. "I can't walk anymore," she whispered. "My system is shutting down." "Don't say that," Eric said. "We'll find help." He looked around and remembered an old signal tower nearby. It was once used by human scouts for long-range communication. If it still worked, maybe he could send the message to orbit to command or anyone listening. "I'll carry you," he said firmly. "You don't have to," she said, barely audible. "I want to," he replied. Eric lifted her carefully and placed her over his shoulder. She was too light for someone still alive, but she held on weakly, resting her head against his back. Her breath was slow, her voice gone. The journey to the tower took nearly an hour. Eric's body ached, but he didn't stop. The snow was deeper now, and the trees grew thicker. But he kept pushing forward, step by step, every heartbeat echoing. With one goal: keep her alive. Finally the tower came into view. It was old, rusted, but still standing, half buried in snow, but the entrance was open. Eric stepped inside, laid Lyra down on a padded bench, and rushed to the control panel. The screens were dead, but the backup power light blinked softly. He connected his portable cell and powered up the system. The screen flickered on, and Eric quickly typed in a distress message. "Human Scout Unit, requesting urgent pickup, non-hostile hybrid, with classified tech location coordinates. Attached, please respond, urgent medical required." He sent the message into open channels. He didn't know who would answer or when, but he had to try. He returned to Lyra and sat beside her. Her eyes were closed, but she was still breathing, just barely. "You did your best," she whispered. "Even when I gave up." "You're not done yet," Eric said. "Help is coming. I'm not scared anymore." She said, "Not of death, not of them, but I'm sad." "Why?" he asked. "Because I met you too late," she replied. Eric's heart tightened. He took her hand, cold and shaking, and held it gently. "You're not going to die," he said. "Not while I'm still breathing." Suddenly, the tower's alert light flashed green. A signal had returned. Eric jumped to the console. A message displayed. "Unit acknowledged, rescue inbound ETA 12 minutes. Hold position, prepare for contact." Eric smiled. "They're coming, Lyra. You're going to make it." But as he turned to her, the tower's sensors picked up something else: movement outside. Fast, too fast. The machines had followed them again. "Damn it," Eric cursed. Under his breath, he grabbed his rifle and ran to the window. 3 figures moved through the trees, red lights glowing from their heads. They would be here before the rescue arrived. He looked back at Lyra, too weak to move, and made a decision. "I'll hold them off," he said. "You just keep breathing." He stepped outside, set up his last smoke grenade, and took position behind a broken wall near the tower entrance. His hands were cold, but his aim was steady. He had one mission now: protect her at any cost. The first machine appeared, scanning with red light. Eric fired one clean shot to the head. It dropped instantly. The second one dodged, moving fast. Eric rolled to the side and fired again, hit its arm. Not enough. The machine fired back, grazing his side, but Eric didn't stop. He moved closer, fired a full burst, and brought the second down. But the third was already near the tower door. Eric sprinted, tackled it from behind, and stabbed a power rod into its chest. The shock burst through both of them. Eric flew back into the snow, coughing. The machine twitched, then stopped moving. He lay there, blood on his lips, staring at the sky. Then bright lights above. A ship was landing, engines glowing softly. A rescue team in white armor ran out and found him. They checked his wounds and moved inside the tower. Lyra was still breathing, but barely. "She needs help," Eric gasped. "She's special." The medics looked at her and paused, one of them whispering, "Is this one of the shadow prototypes?" Another nodded. "But she's stable. And she's crying." They looked at each other, shocked, because machines didn't cry, but Lyra did. The rescue ship lifted off slowly, snow blowing around the landing zone. Inside the warm cabin, Eric lay on a medical bed, weak but awake. Bandages covered his side, and his face had small cuts. He didn't care about the pain, all his thoughts were on Lyra. She was lying on the bed across from him. Still silent, her skin was pale, her breathing shallow. But the glow in her spine had returned, just a little, like a small fire refusing to die. "Will she live?" Eric asked the medic. "We don't know yet," the medic said. "She's not like us. Her systems are complex, organic and machine, but we're trying." Eric nodded slowly. He reached out and gently took her hand. It was cold, but it didn't feel empty. He held it tight, not wanting to let go. The ship entered orbit, and Eric looked out the window. Stars filled the sky, and Earth's blue light glowed far away. After so many days of cold, darkness, and danger, he could finally breathe. Hours passed. Inside a clean room at the medical center, Lyra finally opened her eyes. She blinked slowly, confused, then looked around. Her body felt heavy, but the pain was less now. Soft lights glowed above her, and machines beeped quietly around her. Then she saw him, Eric, sitting beside her, sleeping in the chair, arms crossed, head down. Still wearing his worn-out jacket, she smiled. "You stayed." Eric woke up at her voice and sat up fast. "Lyra, you look tired," she said softly. "You almost died," he replied. She nodded. "I know, but you didn't," he said. "You made it." "I thought they wouldn't let me live," she whispered. "I thought they'd shut me down." "They almost did," Eric said. "But I stopped them." Lyra looked confused. "Why?" "Because you're not a weapon," Eric said. "You're a person. You made choices, you showed kindness. You risked everything for survival. That's more human than most humans." Tears welled up in her eyes again. "No one ever said that to me before." "They should have," he said gently later. An officer from Earth's high command came to speak with Eric. He was an older man with a serious face, but his voice was calm. "This girl," the officer said, "she's part of a program we ended years ago. The Shadow Project was shut down after we realized it crossed too many lines." Eric folded his arms. "Then why were they still hunting her?" "Because some didn't want to let go," the officer said. "She escaped from a hidden lab run by rogue operators. We didn't know she was still alive, or we would have stopped the hunt. So what now?" Eric asked. "She's safe now." The officer said, "We've cleared her records. No more chasers, no more shadows." "And her future?" That depends, the officer replied. She can't go back to her old life, but maybe she can build a new one. Eric looked back at Lyra through the glass window. She was sitting up now, looking at her hands as if seeing them for the first time. She's stronger than she looks, Eric said. Give her a chance. A few days later, Lyra stood outside the facility with Eric. A new coat covered her shoulders, and her skin looked brighter. The glow in her spine was steady, now not fading anymore. I don't know where to go, she said. You could stay with me, Eric replied. I'm not going back to the Scouts. I've seen enough cold, Lyra smiled. And I've seen enough fear. He offered his hand. So what do you say? She looked at his hand, then took it slowly. Her fingers were still a little shaky, but warmer now. I say thank you, she said, for letting me in that night, for not shooting, for seeing me. Eric chuckled. You only asked to warm up. Remember? She laughed softly. And I did. More than I ever expected. Together, they walked toward the shuttle bay, the sky above open and bright. A new day, a new future, no longer hunted, no longer hiding, just two souls who found each other in the cold, one human, one who was never supposed to be, and yet both free now. The end.